All right. As people are getting finally dialed in and things are loading up for you guys, I will go ahead and get things started here and we'll get kicked off. So, welcome everyone. My name is Eric Walmerink. I am one of the product managers over here at Decisions. You are attending our bi-weekly or every other week product roadmap, platform roadmap that we give as a presentation to all of our customers and partners is just a way to keep you updated and informed on what we're working on and the things that are coming out over the next couple of months and are the things that we recently released. So that's what we're doing. And let's go ahead and dive right in. So first and foremost, again, who are we? The people that present on this call are the product managers. You have myself, who manages the engines team, which is really all around kind of how the product works. And right now, very heavily focused on the new deployment server capabilities coming up, which I'm going to talk a lot about. We also have Kirsten Johnson. She's on the call listening in. She manages a lot of our UI focused features, specifically around like the new form and report and page building kind of engines that we're working on. We also have Josh. Josh does all of our integrations, so everything coming in and out of Decisions, focused heavily right now on like AI and some gRPC stuff that we're working on. And last but not least, we have Rohit, who also focuses on UI, but is more on the designer side of things. He's really heavily focused on like some new flow engine changes that are coming in 9.11 and some rule designer changes there as well. So that's the team. We rotate presenting these sort of presentations. So you get me this week, and I'm going to be focusing a lot of the tail end of this presentation on deployment server stuff and those sorts of things. But if you have questions on any of this stuff or you want some more information, please let us know. So ask in the Q&A panel as we go, ask in the webinar chat as we go. If you think of things after the call or you have questions that I'm not presenting on, you want to ask questions about AI, either Josh can come answer them now or we can schedule a time for him to meet with you. But please let us know how we can help you. You can email us at productmanagement@decisions.com. Or another great way is you're going to get a little pop-up after this call that says, will you fill out the survey? If you don't mind taking a minute to do that, it's tremendously helpful for us to make sure we're presenting the right sort of things that you care about and just helps us get better, which you guys know as a tool is something we greatly care about. So please feel free to do those two ways, either talk to us now or reach out to us after the call. All right, start where we always do. Same slide you've seen 100 times if you've ever been here. But what do we do as a product team? Why do we exist? It's the same goal as it always has been, and it's the same goal as we're going to take moving forward. So we want to take all of the intelligence and business smarts and acumen and everything that everyone knows about how to solve problems and combine that with the most up-to-date, most modern, and easiest to use automation techniques so that you can solve problems with your knowledge the best ways possible. That's it. We want to combine all of the modern automated tools with all of your business acumen and give you a platform that gives you the capability to solve those problems. Now, a couple recent things for the past couple years, in case we missed you for a little bit. 2024 was all focused on version 9. And version 9 was really around refocusing the portal experience around this grouping of objects called projects. So projects is something that we kind of talked about in version 8 and earlier as an idea. It's a way that we helped think and conceptualize your builds and your projects that you're working on and your kind of workflows that combine together. We've just formally made that a part of the platform in version 9. So now everything's together in a project, and that becomes the way that you can audit and see and move your work from one environment to another in Decision. So version 9 was focused on getting projects out the door and then starting to iterate through kind of what that means from a system level, what that means from designer level. And then, of course, we've been doing a ton of updates to the design experience as well. And that's kind of been what 2024 has been focused on. Now, 2025, we are nearing the halfway mark, which is honestly kind of terrifying. But a lot of what you're seeing behind the scenes is focused on our core infrastructure and core deployment practice. So this is the way that you then take the stuff you're building and how you ship it up to other environments, and eventually how you're going to be able to control all of your architecture through decisions through the deployment server. So actually being able to create and destroy environments, to do automated and load testing, those sorts of things. That's all 2025 what we're focused on, at least from kind of a core perspective. What you don't see on this list is also like a complete rebranding and redesign of the Flow Designer, a brand new way to build and create forms using more modern drag and drop and resizable kind of Flexbox type stuff. All sorts of AI integrations. Those are the sorts of things we're continuing to do and accelerate on. while also working on kind of this major platform replatforming thing. So some recent information, some recent releases we've had. We just released version 9.10 in May. And there's a number of things that we've been kind of doing here that I wanted to highlight. You can check these out all here or on our documentation site. If you go to documentation.decisions.com, pop open the release notes, you'll see all of these. But I actually just wanted to run over to Decisions really quick, take a quick break from kind of road mapping and show off a couple things that we've been doing. These are really quick and really easy to see. So I'd love to just jump in and show you a couple of different things that we've been working on here. So let me switch screens very quickly. Jump over to here. There we go. And yes, I want to show off a handful of features that have been released in the past 3 releases. So first and foremost, because I'm already on this screen, let's talk about locking. This screen altogether, if you haven't seen version 9 in a while, has gotten a facelift, right? We actually are now putting health information directly in this design view. We're putting to-do information, validation sorts of things. We've added a new way that we could display tags here as like a pill shape, and that's actually something you can do on all of your reports. But one of the cool things we've done, which is really simple, is that if I open a flow and I'm actively editing it, just very quick visual feedback from like another tab that says, hey, this item's locked. Someone is using it. And of course, you're going to get the same behavior where if you try to edit that, it's going to warn you and saying, hey, Eric is locked to this thing. You can't touch it. Or if you're an admin, do you want to break his lock? But just a quick visual thing that says, hey, we're really caring about how you can get quick visual feedback from the design studio. And so that's there, neat, handy. And then if I close this flow, obviously, sorry, my flows are super ugly. I'll see that lock go away. So it is a live view. It's not something you have to refresh to get. That's something really cool. The next one is health score. Like I said, we've kind of been jamming this in everywhere. You may have seen very quickly when I was in a flow that you actually at the very upper right-hand corner can see the health score and everything that's happening and why your flow is following best practices or not. And what's really cool about this is live. So if I start to edit a description here, like this flow is to demo on the webinar, and it has a good descriptive piece of text to let others know that it does stuff. And when I'm done with that, I'll notice over here in the upper right, that improved my health score by 5%. And of course, I can click into here, see that I'm now at 89%, what the reasoning is. That should reflect when I save. And then when I pop out, my score jumps up to 89%. This idea that we want to really know the structure of what's going on and provide you with proactive feedback is something that's pervasive across a lot of our updates. So you may have noticed the PATS update as well, which is all of us sending recommendations to your server on best practices and things you can fix. That's all coming. And then, of course, on the note specifically for 9.9 is now it's in the form designer. So you'll see it in flows, rules, and forms now. And we're going to continue to kind of implement this health idea in more and more places so that it's really usable and kind of informational for your developers and users. The next one is if you create a new project, you're going to get the default designer folder. And here's just a quick new dashboard, kind of similar to our info dashboard for a project that gives you a quick oversight and information about your project. So in this specific webinar demo project, I have 7 things, 2 are flows, 2 are forms. I can click into these and filter my report. I can then right click and edit them. So just wanted to show this off because it's just another kind of nice place to go. If you're really searching for something like, hey, I know this data structure is in this project, but I have no idea in the folder tree where I saved it because it was built by Josh and he doesn't use any folder structure, then you can come to this dashboard, click, I guess I would click forms or pages, wherever it is, go find it very easily, filter, et cetera, et cetera. So again, just kind of a nice thing to have to improve some of your designer experience as well. And then the last one, which is oddly one that we've gotten a ton of positive feedback for, which is it's going to sound silly, but it's a nice quality of life thing, is if you start to put multiple sorts and filters and groups on a report, right? So I've come into here and I've tried to sort this 10 different ways from Sunday. I actually have 5 different sortings on this report. Well, as I go to sort by number 6, like nothing actually moves and changes in my report, so I can't see. Similar to where you can reset your report to the default report definition, you also can just reset all of your sorting that you've already done in there. So you could just quickly click that button, reset everything, see now it's back to normal, and now I can go in and do my sort, see everything sorted by name. I'm good to go and happy there. Again, kind of a silly quality of life one, but honestly something I think is kind of fun and neat. in there. Oh, I said that was the last one. I lied. There's one more I wanted to present. Let's do it really quick. The last one is really Kirsten's bucket, so I'm gonna give her a big thumbs up and then tease you that in I guess 2 4 weeks she's gonna be presenting more on kind of um, the UI building experience. But you'll see some of those already in version. I guess this is in 9.8, but it's coming out in 9.10 and 9.11, where the way that you go in. Oh, this is not the form I wanted. Sorry, I had a different form. This is the form I wanted. But the way that you start to build and drag and put components on there is now we have drag to resize components. Whereas previously, if I drug, say, a file upload component, uh, that's there. It's great. But say I wanted this button. Let me pick actually something a little bit better. Maybe something like an image, something I would want to stretch across multiple things. It'll fill the cell like it does today, and I can specify the image or where it's coming from. Previously, I'd have arrows here. I'd click down, click down, click down, click down, click right to stretch it across all of these components. Well, now you can just drag to resize and fill as much of the space as you want. So if I want to shrink it up to these grid cells, I can. If I want to go back to this column, I can. If I want to slide it over, it will respect the sizing that I've set it to so that it doesn't like reset back to the small size, which on the previous version of the UI designer it has. So anyone who builds forms and decisions or cares about forms, this is just a teaser as to a ton of different fixes that we're doing and improvements to make the UI building experience a lot better. But this is already in place in 9.9, 9.8 actually, and you can go ahead and use this as well. So again, if you want to see more of this, you got to come back in 4 weeks and talk to Kirsten. Ooh, and I did a bunch of stuff that made my validation go. So that's actually bad, but good that that feature worked. I'm down to 60%. So, um, cool. That's not for that's I don't see any question. I did see a question come in about videos. Looks like Josh has typed in the answer. I also can just tell you guys really quick. The question was, can you rewatch these videos? Yes, absolutely. Any of these previous ones that we have, you can go to our YouTube playlist and see all of the roadmap presentations there. So if you want to go back and see Josh's presentation from last week rather, or Kirsten was last week. You can go see hers last week or 2 weeks ago was Josh. You're welcome to go watch there and check out our YouTube thing. And I'm going to answer this question now instead of waiting. It says, hey, Eric, any thought to adding drag and drop support for data repeaters to rearrange items? I believe the answer is yes. I believe so. Drag and drop's actually something that we're going to try to be implementing in a lot of different places. There's talks of adding it to parts of the report designer. There's talks of adding it to a customized report designer so that like, for example, in deployment server, I want to drag a release over to deploy it. So, that simple action is going to be supported. So I'm going to tentatively say yes, but I'll have Kirsten follow up with you after the call to make sure we understand your ask there, Chris. And I'll make sure that we get that answered. Sorry, sometimes the questions don't show. The question was, any thought to adding drag and drop support for data repeaters? And I believe the answer is yes, but I'll follow up with you after the call. Oh, recent features demo. I just did that. All right, wonderful. Let's go back into some roadmap stuff then, and we'll talk about this. Yeah, 2025. What are we talking about? You'll see the big chunk of left is deployment server. Again, I have a whole like 5 slides to talk about this, so I won't spend a ton of time here. But deployment server is the thing, and it's really divvied up into 3 areas. One is the code shipping review, like creation of user story section, which is the development of your work. The second is the actual deployment practices, right? How you actually commit things up to the server, how that gets put into a release and deployed higher up. And then the third is using the repository as a container and observability management system where you can both turn on and off your environments. You can get auditing and enrichment data there. You can see kind of the high level lay of the land, so to speak. That's kind of deployment server in a nutshell, and we're just churning through that. And again, I'll show a lot more there. But some other things, like I mentioned, the unified UI designer Kirsten's working on, a complete flow designer refresh with better tooling in there to align your flows, better data visualization, completely rebuilt debugging experience, which is incredible. We just got a demo of it today, and it's it's going to change quite a bit. And again, I'll tease you with those as coming up this year, but that's kind of the focus of what we have coming up in 2025. As we get further along to like 2026, yeah, this is where we start to look at a little bit more of kind of making decisions faster, make it a little bit more agile in sort of enterprise type things, being able to quickly deploy sorts of projects out there or quickly get you ramped up and started a lot faster. So you'll see some things in here like just automatically updating your environments from the deployment server, being able to create very quick projects and flows and lightweight use cases with the assistance of AI or some pre-built projects from our solutions team, being able to automatically scale environments for load. All of that's a big focus for next year, which is then now that we're going to get the container infrastructure sorted, now we want to be able to just like very seamlessly and quickly punch in and out and deploy where we need to go. So that's going to be a major focus of 2026. I'm kind of thinking further into 2027. Again, this is where the waters get murky, but we do our best to start planning ahead and thinking about what we're going to do. A lot of use cases, especially we see kind of future use cases coming in, are going to be for really quick batch inserting of rules. And the idea behind this is that the world is not getting any less complicated, right? As businesses evolve and grow, the sorts of governance and rules and governmental requirements plus security requirements plus internal business requirements and all the rules and kind of structure and governance of that is not getting any easier. So we want to make specifically kind of the rule building and decisioning logic of decisions kind of a major quick plug and play kind of tooling inside of those, right? You'll see actually some of these slide into 2026 as we do some rule designer updates more recently. But we see kind of less development, more configuration type deployments as what we're really gearing towards, right? So being able to spin up a rules engine and import your data set really quickly and have it generate the rules automatically, which you can tweak or to have AI tweak, right? Like that's the kind of like you just kind of configure it really quick and then it's going to just churn and run away from you. That's the main focus that's what we see as a kind of product level focus for the next couple of years. Whew. All right, let's talk a few minutes about roadmap stuff. I'm going to talk high level, again, kind of taking the themes that I just showed you and looking at specifically the next 12 months. And I'm going to dive really specifically into deployment server. But main themes here that we've already kind of seen permeated throughout is number one, deployment. You've already seen that. That's coming through. Developer velocity. This is all of those drag and drop tools that Kirsten's working on. This is all of those flow designer refresh things, right? We know developers are what makes decisions kind of work. And the people and when I say developers, I mean like decisions, workflow developers, those types of people. And so we just want to make it easy for them to build. We want it to be quick and easy to test and move forward. Let the people who need to build, and let the people who need the data see the data. And lastly, this health and integrations. One thing that sets decisions apart from some of our competitors is the way that we're focusing really heavily on proactively helping you and improving your processes out of the box, right? So this idea that health is tied in and that we can proactively send you suggestions for improvement and interrogate the structures of your flows and give you suggestions, that's all something that we're continuing to develop and look through as well. And then a big scary chart. For the sake of time and for everyone's sanity, I will not go through every single one of these because I could talk for a very long time. However, this is just kind of what we're targeting, those three kind of themes over the next year-ish, roughly, right? So again, a lot of the same things you've seen before. Looking at kind of deployment server is the main kind of underlying engine architecture we're focusing on. The better UI designer, better sorts of rule designers, except one thing I do want to highlight here is if you look in the middle row and towards the end of this year, Q3, Q4, another way that we want to improve velocity and visibility is through production data enrichment. And this is kind of a part of deployment server. It's kind of a part of the flow designer. But what it is you have a running environment with all sorts of data that gives you when your flows and rules run, we know about it and we can see the data that happens there. We have process mining that gives you really good detailed analysis and insight about your process and the states it runs through. But we also can take that data and give it to developers so that they can build good flows using live production data or see the steps that they're trying to edit and modify, how they actually run in the real world and in production. So this idea that we can take that, enrich that data and enrich the developer experience by letting them maybe run a flow step with the data that's in production or sample data that's from production, right? We could pull it and sanitize it run it in dev so we can make sure that it works the same way. Seeing how a rule behaves, the past 30 executions, true, false, so that when I make changes to it, I can see what sort of impacts that would have. That's the level of designer improvement we're looking for. And that's something I'm really excited about coming towards the end of this year. I could spend the rest of the talk talking AI stuff, but I won't because I don't want to steal Josh's thunder next week. So if you're interested in our AI roadmap, specifically around kind of what we're doing around prompts, what we're doing with generative AI to help designers like create unit tests or update formulas, or the way that we now have our Dart chatbot in the tool, what that's going to be able to do, then again, here's the teaser. Come back next week. I'd love for you guys to sit with Josh and answer those questions and be able to go forward from there. Oh, sorry, one more slide. I took a breather break too early. Yes, the last idea is our solutions team. You guys, if you haven't checked out our marketplace, please go look at it. It's marketplace.decisions.com. You also can see it in the App Store in the Decisions Toolbox. But if you haven't seen it lately, go check it out because we have been adding over the past year tens of projects that give you really good out-of-the-box solutions with documentation and video and unit tests and everything you need to get kind of off the ground and running around a number of different kind of verticals and experiences and use cases. And you can see the list here of things that we're working on. We're actually this is a slightly outdated slide, but you can kind of see we're in May. But working through being able to like control all of a company's inventory through a system that's already built and ready to go with reporting and dashboarding, or being able to do some sort of light project management in the tool. We're actually going to take some of those ideas and embed them in deployment server. But all of those examples and things you can find today, you can go check them out. If there's something you're looking for, please reach out to us. We're happy to get you in contact with the solutions team. But there's a lot of really good uses for kind of pre-built solutions there that you can take a look at and start to leverage through. All right, now's where I pause and take a quick sip of water. I don't see any questions coming in. I did see some feedback about the YouTube playlist. So if you submitted that, thank you. We'll take a look at that after the call and make sure that that works for you. But I want to talk deployment server, so I'm going to talk deployment server. Here's the idea. What is deployment server? I've mentioned it several times in this call. You've probably seen us talk about it in the past, but deployment server is taking what we have today, which is the repository being just a check-in, check-out kind of code management system, and completely revamping it so that you can both manage your code and completely organize, track the way that you ship code, the way that you kind of understand what's being worked on, what environments are doing what, and control your containers. That's the big kind of next phase of this is we want deployment server to be able to deploy the environments themselves and control the version that they're on and be able to turn on and off those environments very quickly and pipeline those all together. So that's the idea behind deployment server is it's this bigger idea of not just checking in and being a code repository, but also controlling the movement of your projects and the creation and organization of your infrastructure as well. This is a big scary diagram. Please don't stress too much about this, but I want to highlight a couple things about why we're doing this, what we're doing. As we believe deployment server will be the centralized piece that connects all of these kind of disparate systems and things that we have in decisions today. So for example, today you have dev, you have test, you have QA, you have the repository. They all kind of live separate and you use the repository to check in and check out, but there's really no cohesiveness behind the scenes of those environments knowing about each other and sending data to each other and connecting up well. We believe deployment server will be that single pane of glass view that allows you to both from the top down see everything that goes on, all the environments and things and hosting locations of your servers, but also control the deployment of those. Like, hey, I need to update this environment to the latest version of decisions. And oh, Josh made a change. We need to deploy it to production on this other container. And I want all that to be in one single easy to use location that just connects the dots for you. And so that's what this diagram is attempting to show. As we have the deployment server and we have all of your different, cloud-based nodes and containers that are running one or multiple projects or they're clustered. And all that's fine. We understand that some businesses are a lot simple, some of our customers are way more complex, and we want deployment server to be able to handle all of it seamlessly, easy to understand, etc. And so what are we doing with this? What does this look like? Well, there's a couple phases to how we're targeting the changes for this. Right now with the icon, we're in the MVP phase, which is we're working on the development for this. We're focusing on the core infrastructure behind all of these ideas. And that's something our development team is actively working on today. And it's really just kind of getting all of those primary structures and functions up for phase one. Now, phase one, what is that? Phase one is going to be our initial release of deployment server. It's going to be the first major update. Don't quote me on this, most likely version 10 of decisions. Still debating a little bit of that, so a little teaser, but phase one is going to be all around the development experience and then the code shipping experience of pushing that data up to higher environments, right? So one thing we don't have today is understanding what developers are working on. How do I know if I ask Josh to update a flow or I ask Kirsten to change a rule, how do I know she's actually doing that work? How do I know what the status is of that work? Well, a lot of our customers wind up using other systems to do that, like a Trello or a Jira or any of those sorts of systems. And what we want to do is instead integrate a lot more seamlessly with those types of systems and allow that really clear visibility and status tracking to be part of your deployment practices so that as I'm developing, everything's getting tagged to a specific user story. And as that user story gets completed, everything gets reviewed by someone, which today there's no code review. We're implementing a brand new, complete, robust code review system. That's all part of this kind of phase one, which is how do we make sure that we have really clear requirements and tracking for our developers? How does their work get tagged really cleanly and reviewed? And then the last piece is this releases and deployment server pieces, which is great. Someone's done something. Great, I've approved it. Now what? Well, now we can take those changes and group them together meaningfully into release and group them together into a deployment package and move that from one environment to another. Whereas today, you actually have to go to the target system and pull those changes down. Now you can, from the deployment server, logically group them together and schedule or manually deploy from the one location. So that's all phase one, which is quite a big, quite a big change. But again, phase one is really heavily focused on how do I understand the development practices and then meaningfully group that together to ship from one environment to another. And that's pretty cool. That's going to be coming later this summer, targeting a release of early Q3, which would kind of be the goal there. Maybe mid Q3, if I'm being honest. Really quick, I'll jump through the other phases. I see questions coming in, so I'll jump back to those in a second. Phase two is going to be around testing and enrichment. I mentioned enrichment data already. Yes, this is getting that production data into a centralized place to be leveraged by our designers. That's going to be part of phase two. But one thing we think is really important as well is testing. The ability for us to run unit tests is really great about decisions today. We also want to add a layer of performance testing or load testing, which you can configure and set up in the deployment server and then schedule to run automatically. So maybe every time Josh changes a flow, we're going to automatically deploy that to a server and run load tests against it and report back. So I could see that Josh's change improved performance by 6% and Eric's change decreased performance by 30%. We're going to reject Eric's change at the review stage because you shouldn't be degrading performance. But testing both from a unit test perspective from your flows and rules, from a load test holistic perspective of your project, and then from a user acceptance testing, like click-through acceptance criteria, is all a part of phase two, being able to define those, schedule those for automated runs, or put a place in the portal where you can click through those checkboxes, is all going to be a part of phase two. Phase three, containers. Yes, container optimization, making it look really, making the footprint of our containers a lot smaller, making them need less resources to run, making the start and stop time of all of our environments significantly faster. All of that's required to do some of these kind of experiences I've told about, right? If I want to quickly test a change, I need to turn on a server very quickly, deploy the project very quickly, let the tests run, and then destroy it just as quickly. I want all of that to do it as rapidly as possible so that the data is meaningful for the reviewer and so that the cost of these things is light from a hosting perspective. So container optimization, kind of controlling your pods and controlling your nodes from the deployment server will be phase 3. And then phase 4 and phase 5 and phase 6, as this moves forward, is going to be the enhancements to those things. For example, one thing I'm really excited about is a scratch pod or scratch instance. Like say, for example, Josh is a new developer on my team. He just joined, and I want to let him play around with some flows. But I can't let him on the shared dev server because I don't want him to touch the main flow that I'm working on. So I can quickly create a destroyable scratch instance, a read-only instance, deploy the project to him, let him do whatever he wants on there, and just destroy it when he's done. You could do this for upgrade testing, right? You could clone a production server, deploy the latest update to it, let all the unit tests and load tests run, let users click through it, and then destroy it. So this ability that once we can control containers, we can very quickly clone and deploy and do branching for hot fixes of your environments is going to give you a ton of value there. And that's phase 4. Sorry, I spent a lot of time talking on this slide. So I'm going to stop talking. I saw a couple of questions come in and take a quick break and see if there's any thoughts or questions here. One question did come in, which is with phase 1 or deployment server in general, will you be able to package across projects? Oh, great question. Yeah. So this, when we moved everything to projects, so say you had a big list of work you're working on, and I have HR onboarding and IT ticketing and let's call it like sales tracking, right? Those are 3 separate things. What if all 3 of those rely on Salesforce, right? So I have a 4th project that's Salesforce integration utility, and I share that across the other 3 projects. You can do that with version 9 today. You create a dependency between those projects, and it's it's meaningful, right? Then you know that those things rely on each other in order to be used and segregated appropriately. With deployment server, absolutely. You will be able to create a deployment package with disparate projects that have no relation. So I can say, hey, since Friday's our maintenance window, I'm going to promote Team A's changes and Team B's changes. They don't relate, but I'm packaging them together so that I can do the deployment practices and tracking meaningfully together so that they deploy at the same maintenance window. And that process is smart enough to know dependencies. So if I try to deploy my project and it requires Salesforce and there's updates to Salesforce, it's going to walk you through that and say, hey, you're deploying this, but we also noticed changes on the Salesforce thing. What do you want to do? Do you want to deploy both? Do you want to ignore this validation, et cetera? So I think for both of those scenarios for the question that was asked, yes, the deployment server will be intelligent enough to both deploy projects that know about each other and projects that don't, and be able to create that package independently and schedule that out. So yes, I believe that is. All right, I saw another question come in. It seems to have been answered by Josh. Josh, if that's not true, please come off mute, let me know, or ask it again, and I'm happy to answer those sorts of things. But all right, no other questions? 3, 2, 1, go. All right, another big scary chart. This is just focused in on deployment server. So take that one line we had in the other roadmap and blow it up and add some more kind of descriptions here. I've talked a lot about these sorts of ideas. So again, I won't spend a ton of time looking through all the different sorts of pieces here, but we've kind of split this up into 3 areas that deployment server impacts. One is the development and code shipping practices. You'll see there, that's the user stories, that's putting them together into things called sprints. That's being able to do proper code review and user story review. That's being able to automate those things and have, stories get created when, load tests fail or don't meet a certain SLA. That's all code shipping development practices. Deployment is going to be the actual deploying of work. So that's using the deployment server to one button click deploy and schedule out the deployment for a future date. Create all of my tests that run as a load testing practice, right? That's all going to be on the deployment kind of server itself. And then the third piece is around this kind of containerization and observability piece, which is, hey, how do we make containers run really fast? How do we scale those easily, right? Like one of the things here as well is we want you to set certain criteria in your cloud-based clusters so that we will automatically deploy and turn things on and off for you for load, right? So if you have a project that's really high critical business critical and needs to perform at a certain SLA, you can put that in a node and have that scale up and down with the deployment server appropriately and not have that impact your other servers, right? Or if someone's trying to install a new dev server, it's going to say, hey, wait, hold on. all those resources are being used by production right now, or you can add more resources, et cetera. So that level of control from a scalability standpoint is going to be really powerful. Like that's something we see as a huge game changers that none of our competitors do well at this point. All right. So what? So what does this mean for everyone on the call? What's next? Well, like I said, we're working on the MVP, which we're kind of treating as like an early alpha build. That's due to be out in a few weeks here, or probably about 4 or 5 weeks, if we're being honest. But this is going to be the very early access, like foundational structure build, which lets us test a lot of these ideas, let us test some of these sort of concepts, make sure that the processes are working and that we like them. That's coming out in June. It will not be publicly available, but if you are at all interested in that, please shoot me an email at productmanagementdecision.com. I'd love to have a conversation. But we do have the kind of MVP alpha stage coming out very soon. We are targeting a proper beta process in July and August. Most likely with a closed beta for customers we're reaching out to, and then a more open beta for people to download and test and play with. That will run July and August timeline at the current moment with a proper kind of RTM of that phase one stuff. So that big phase one thing I was talking about will be targeted around September. And like I said, most likely we're calling this V10. Don't quote me on that, but that will be there. And then for those other features, even though I have them kind of into hard phases, we're not really putting concrete dates on those. What we'll be doing is we'll be phasing in those features as they get developed and released, right? So, for example, the load testing suite, we're not going to wait for version 10.7 and that's the release it's going to be in. We're going to develop it and that's the next thing up. And when it's ready, it gets pushed out. And that's what we're going to be focusing on for the rest of the year into next year. Some of those future scratch instance ideas will be targeting towards early to mid next year. All right, I think I answered all the open questions. So anyone correct me if I'm wrong, but now's your chance. Please feel free to drop something in the Q&A panel, drop something in the chat. Let us know if you have any questions, if this is exciting, if this is scary, if you hate it, if you love it, or if you don't want to type it right now. Like I said, there's a survey coming right after this call, and you can shoot us an email as well. But I'm going to pause for just 10 to 30 seconds, see if anyone's frantically typing. I see a few names in the attendee panel who I expect to have many questions, but those people know who they are. No? All right. Going once. Actually, I have one more slide I can talk about before your time's officially up. If you're still thinking of questions, please type them out. I have time. Would love to answer those. But next roadmap, if you want to attend, will not be about deployment server. It's going to be about integrations. And Josh, can correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but I'm fairly certain this is mostly about AI stuff. I think it's going to be around gRPC stuff, maybe some Parquet stuff. I know we're working on a lot with the integration side of things, but Josh will be the guy presenting all of that, and it's going to be on June 3rd. Josh, sorry, I saw you come off mute. Anything you want to say? You good?
No, just yeah, it's going to be a lot about AI stuff and a lot about our kind of future upcoming developments as far as integrating with third-party platforms. So
cool. Thank you, Ben. All right. Well, since no questions got asked, again, please contact us. We want our customers to really be a part of this road mapping process. There's things you care about. There's use cases you're trying to build and can't or are struggling with. If there's a feature that you're really pumped on or think really doesn't impact you at all, just let us know. Good, bad, indifferent. We'd love your feedback. So again, come back to these, ask your questions, shoot us an email, answer the survey, anything we can do to help get you the information you need, more than willing to do. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up and just say thank you to everyone. Appreciate your time. Again, we'll post this on the YouTube channel and we'll get that fixed right away to make sure that that's live and ready to roll. Otherwise, take care. We all have a great day and we will chat another time. So see you, everyone. Have a good one.